Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Well, greetings, everyone. We're so glad that you're joining us today on the Healing Generations podcast, hosted by the Comadres. And what a beautiful day. And we're just counting our blessings as we're coming into springtime and a change and coming out of that winter season and coming into the season of growth, right? The springtime where things start to manifest in colors and generating new life. And so we're just very grateful to be with you all, and we thank you for taking the time to join us today. We acknowledge that you could be listening to 101 podcasts, but you have made the decision to join us today. So we are blessed with your presence. Comadre Maestra Susie, how are you doing?
Wonderful, comadre. So grateful to be here. Been looking forward to this for a long time, and finally it's happening. I just feel as you do, just waiting for that time change so we can have more light, and more time to share with each other and connect in that beautiful Tata Sol. So
Yes.
I'm just feeling very grateful as we approach this new season and this day today.
Yes, we have been blessed and honored with wonderful guests that have joined us on our podcast, and today's no exception because we have a beautiful comadre that will join us today. And so, Maestra Susie, would you do the honor in introducing our guest for today?
Oh, absolutely. It is an honor. Beautiful, beautiful mujer, an hermana, fellow danzante, and a very, very special mujer in the community. The work that she does with us in the Comadres Network, and also as a board member for the NCN, sits on the board. But she does many, many things, many different things, and I just have so much respect for her and all that she does and all that she's done for me personally throughout the years, and all the support that she's given me in the work that I do with girls and women, the workshops that we've done together, the healing circles that we've done together. She just has a very special medicine. She's solid as a rock and just brings so much. She just has this gift of providing just a safe healing space for those that are in her presence. You can always count on her for anything. So I will pass it to you, mi hermana, Pati Cárdenas. So honored to have you here with us today. And just want to ask you if you can just share a little bit about who you are, who your family is, where you come from, and maybe share with the audience what you do, all of what you do. If that's possible in this time, because you do so much. Adelante, hermana.
Gracias to both of you. It's such an honor and such a humbling experience to be sitting here con ustedes, Maestra Deb and Maestra Susie, who, I feel so fortunate to call my hermana. I don't have any sisters in this life, so to pick up someone like Susie and know that I can call to her and on her and like I would a sister is a huge blessing. So I'm just honored to be here with you today. I've listened to some of the other podcasts and the mujeres that you have had on, and so I'm honored to be in such great company and incredibly humbled to be part of the Comadres Network and to sit on the board of the National Compadres Network. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here and share whatever I can in any possible little tiny way, and hope that it resonates with somebody and it's helpful. But to introduce myself, my name is Patricia Cárdenas Illescas. I am the daughter of Alejandro Cárdenas Valdez and Otilia Illescas Olvera. I'm the wife and life partner of Victor Hugo Muñoz, sister to Alex and David Cárdenas, tia to David, Alex, Alina, Andrew, Melanie, Nuvia, Nevaeh, and now great tia to baby Koi. And I also have the good fortune of being unofficial tia to many children whose lives I've been fortunate to be a part of. And I think that that's my most beloved title is tia Pati. I am first generation Chicana. My parents are both from Mexicali, Baja California. I was born in Los Angeles. I was raised in Santana or in Orange County. I currently live in the Inland Empire. I went to school in UC Santa Barbara. I got my degree in Chicano Studies and Psychology, where I learned to put a name to all the feelings that I'd had growing up. I learned about Chicanismo. I learned about feminism. I learned about activism, and I give a big tribute to my time that I spent in Santa Barbara. I learned a lot about myself, and it has a lot to do with my identity and as a person that I am now. I grew up most of my life when I was thinking about what I wanted to do when I grew up. I wanted to help people. I started off by thinking that I wanted to be a doctor, and things happened and life happened along the way, and I have been dedicating my life working with victims of crime. I've worked with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and experienced a personal tragedy in 1992 when my brother was killed. And I've since then, dedicated my life to this, and I've been very grateful to be able to dedicate my most biggest moment of grief into my life's passion. I now work with the district attorney's office, and I am able to assist victims of crime through their most biggest heartaches and their most difficult and challenging times. And I've been doing that for the last 15 years. And in the process, I've been guided to maestras like you and, trabajando with Maestro Jerry Tello and getting connected with curanderismo and danza, and have really made it a mission to try to bring all of those parts of my life together and make some sense of them. It's not always been easy, but that's been my goal.
Wow, what a beautiful journey.
Absolutely.
And I think what we've heard before and what resonated was sometimes there is tragedy in our journey, but the resiliency and what we make out of that, the beauty that comes out, sometimes are very painful situations. But I'm just wondering, can you share with us on that journey, right? Going through all those things, what was that journey like? What brought you to the place that you are today? And what are some of those cultural teachings that really were very valuable and sustained you on this journey?
I think, I think when as I was growing up, my parents are very traditional folks, and but they're also from El Norte, from Norte de Mexico, so they're from Mexicali, and so a lot of those cultural teachings and healing practices were not there as I was growing up. My parents had acculturated. I think when I think about my family in Mexicali, I think a lot of times people are looking to the north and wanting to shop at Walmart and go to Costco, in Calexico. And so I think the most that I got as I was growing up was maybe un té de hierbabuena if my stomach hurt, if I was lucky. But for the most part, there were very few healing cultural practices um, that I experienced in my home. My parents are very traditional in the sense that family is very important, and respecting your parents, and doing well in school, and we came to this country so that you would have a better life, and so that was inculcado in me from a very early age. My mom is also a very fiery woman, so what I also heard was you need to go to school so you don't have to put up with anything. You need to be able to get up and go. First sign of a man treating you poorly, it's time to get up and go, so you don't have to depend on anybody. So there were a variety of different messages that I heard as I was growing up. And it wasn't until I went to school and went to college and learned about Chicanismo. And I remember when I heard about La Llorona for the first time, and my professor said, "Oh, everybody knows about La Llorona. I don't have to tell you that story." And I wrote on my piece of paper, "La Llorona, giant question mark." And I went and I asked my mom, "Everybody knows about La Llorona. How come you never told me about her?" And she said, "I didn't like to scare you. That's, just a story parents use to scare their children. And that wasn't how I wanted to raise you." And I was like, "Mom, I was the only Chicana in class who didn't know about La Llorona. I'm already stigmatized because I grew up in Orange County. Like, you can't do that to me." So it was there that I learned. I learned about a lot of things. I learned why I was discouraged to go to medical school from my high school counselor. I learned that it was nothing but racism. I was not going to be encouraged to do what I was wanting to do and what I was planning on doing, and why I was being harassed by police officers, in our neighborhood. All of those things. I there was finally a name to it, and I was able to talk about it and have a narrative behind it and have a discussion behind it. And that education was life saving for me. Otherwise, I think I just would have grown up angry. Um, Being able to identify it and talk about it in a intelligent way, just opened doors for me. Reading books, by Rudy Acuna, like Occupied America and Gloria Saldua, and reading this bridge called My Back, I was like, oh, this is it. This is why I've been feeling the way that I feel. This is why I need to work so hard, because I need to do something to change this. I need to help my people out. And I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew that my goal was to help people, and I think as a young person, when I thought I wanted to be a doctor, it was for that purpose. It was for the purpose of trying to help. And now I look at the bigger picture, and I think it was more an issue of wanting to heal, and having the opportunity to do now that with the tools that I've been able to pick up along the way, by some of you and some of the other maestras in my life. It's just been life changing and very reaffirming.
Mhm. Powerful, my hermana. I've always known you to be just a pillar of strength for myself and the women that we've worked with. You just seem to have this special gift of the ability to deal with crisis, and not everybody has that gift. I know we a lot of us are good at surviving. We know how to survive, but it's a rare gift to be able to just come out when there's a crisis and just know what to do. And I know that has to, I'm imagining it has a lot to do with all the experiences that you've had to endure and go through. And one being the most that I know of is the death of your brother. Having been on one side of being, the victim in your family of something so tragic, and then years later, working for the DA and helping other people, being that support for them and during their crisis. I'm just wondering if you could share with us some reflections about that and how it was for you to see the other side.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, definitely losing my brother was the single most devastating experience in my family's life. I always think of my parents as one of the most upstanding group of people. My parents are like the most upstanding couple I know. They're hardworking, ethical individuals who work really hard to do the right thing. And so when this happened to our family, it was super unexpected. My brother was, not in a gang. He had just finished high school and was trying to, he was a young man. He was 20. He had just, come back from a year-long mechanic program in Arizona, and he was, beginning to start his life. He was not without faults, of course, and obviously, it's not to say that anybody, ever deserves be killed in the way that my brother was. But it was super unexpected for my family. And I always thought that my parents didn't deserve to go through that type of grief. You know, death is always, horrible. But when from one day to the next, someone is taken away from you so violently, and you know that it was at the hands of another person who had, at least at some moment, an opportunity to change their mind, um, is it's just beyond comprehension. And so when that happened, I think that was really shook the core of my belief system. But I did what I normally do, and I don't even know where I got this from, but I become pretty stoic in crisis situations. I don't even really feel my feelings. They go somewhere, and I go into checklist mode and start checking off the list and doing the things that needed to be done. And at that time, being the oldest in my family, seeing my mom completely crushed and devastated by what had just happened, seeing my dad in a bit of a haze, and whose main preoccupation was making sure that my mom was okay, and then still having my little 12-year-old brother who I needed to help navigate through all of this, just put me in to do mode. And so I did. I just did what I had to do, and was one step in front of the next one, and checking things off, and doing the things that needed to happen. And then trying to reconcile, what had happened, and that my brother's life had been taken, and trying to, understand why. And, we went through it was about 9 months before the person who shot my brother was captured in Mexico and then brought back. So it was just a horrific, horrific time. But I kind of stuffed all my feelings away, which is, I'm sure, not the healthiest way of doing things, but that's what I did. I was 24 at the time, and so that was what my 24-year-old Pati knew what to do, was just put it away and start doing things. And we got through it, as a family. We got through it as best as we could. And I will tell you that it wasn't until, gosh, I think it was almost, well, that happened in 1992. It wasn't about 10 years later, maybe 15 years later. I don't even remember when it was, but when I suffered probably the next biggest traumatic experience in my life, which was getting a divorce. And at that time, my brother's death came rushing back. All of a sudden, that grief and that loss was all jumbled with the grief and the loss of having a failed marriage and having my relationship fall apart. And it was very difficult to differentiate which grief I was experiencing in that particular moment. And I'm sure it had everything to do with the fact that I didn't really deal with my grief when it happened initially with my brother. I was too busy doing and taking care of what I thought I needed to take care of. And I didn't really deal with the grief and the loss and the woundedness of having lost my brother the way that I did. So that was a very valuable lesson of the importance of healing and of working on the wounds as they're starting to happen, because they will come up one way or the other. At some point, they will come up. So I'm sorry, to go back and answer your question about now with the work that I do, when I work with victims or when I work with people who've suffered a loss, like a homicide, or they've lost somebody to violence, I just try to remember what I experienced, and I try to remember what my mom needed at the time and didn't hear. The guidance that would have been helpful for us to hear. And then not just about what's going to happen in court or how much of jail time somebody is going to get, but more about the need to really take care of yourself and to heal, and to understand that everyone in the family is grieving differently. Um, it's not an uncommon statistic for people to get divorced after they lose a child to homicide, and that's because people grieve differently. The
Mm,
father grieves one way, the mom grieves a different way, and they're both angry at each other for not grieving the same.
mm,
And so I try to remember that and keep that in mind, and I make it a point to remember about the siblings, because the focus is always on the mom and always
mhm,
on the dad, um, in a lot of ways as it should be. But there's also a huge sense of loss that the siblings feel when they lose a brother or a sister to violence or unexpectedly, or you know it's a huge loss. And I think, Maestra Estela Roman talks about susto, and talks about, your body, your spirit going away from you. You have to. Gosh, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure that that's the disassociation that happens when I go into my crisis mode. I'm good at crisis because my body, my spirit knows how to leave my body.
mm,
My
mhm,
spirit knows how to go away, and then my brain just takes over about what
mhm.
it is that I need to do. And so it's guiding that spirit back and calling your spirit back to yourself, and just bringing it back and being gentle with it and taking care of it, and knowing that, you have to apapacharlo a little bit to
Mhm,
bring it back, to caress it, to guide it back to your body and call it back slowly. And know that if later on another traumatic experience happens, your spirit may not all be there. It may still be gone from the last thing that happened. So, I had a long time between the loss of my brother and then my divorce. It was at least a decade later. I can't even imagine what it's like for people who are experiencing trauma over and over and over again,
mm.
one time right after the other, because, that's what's happening in their lives. So, um, I try to think about all of those things as I'm navigating through my job now, working with the district attorney's office and working with victims of crime.
Wow, they're so fortunate to have you, hermana. So fortunate.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you brought up various themes there, right? Because you're dealing with tragedy and violence and these situations that just in and of itself, carries its own, multitude of emotional, spiritual, physical, things with it, right? That happen. It's multi-layered when we go through these experiences, and having to deal with this on a daily basis. Because you mentioned that you work for the district attorney. These are your cases, and so I'm just wondering at this place because I know you're a danzante. I know you're into curanderismo. So what or how do these practices help to sustain you on a daily basis? Because it's not like you go and do this and then you're done and you're on to another trip. This is something that's constantly reoccurring in your life. And
Hmm.
I just think about it that, there's listeners out there today that they might not be working for the DA's office, but circumstances that are provoking violence or insecurity, or abuse or things like that, and they're interacting with this. It could be in a neighborhood where there's so much uncertainty, and
Hmm.
they're on a daily basis interacting with this, with these things. So I'm just wondering what kind of words can you offer, for those that are in this relationship of having to deal with this on a daily basis.
Hmm. I that's a really good question, and I think that not enough can be said about the power of prayer and surrender. And
Absolutely.
I think that some of my most difficult challenges in life have been letting go of control, and surrendering to the fact that I am not in control. I'm not the one that's leading this. And as much as I would have liked to think that I was, when I was a much younger person, yes, I thought I had it all figured out. I knew I knew I knew what I needed to do. I didn't understand why people's lives were so complicated, you know. Um, and then my brother died,
Mm.
And I thought, wait, that's not part of what was supposed to happen. You mean
Mhm.
stuff like this can happen even though you're doing the right thing and you're living a good life and you're trying to be a good person and you have a good family? This kind of devastation can still happen. It was beyond my ability to just wrap my mind around. And so I think working with the maestras and learning about prayer. Danza was a gift that came into my life. And it didn't come into my life until my life fell apart again for the second time during my
Mm.
divorce. Like I mentioned, that I thought, man, I really don't have control of what's happening around me. And I decided at that point to just give it up to Creator. I was like, everything I've been doing so far, I thought I was doing everything right. I give up. I'm not even going to trust myself anymore. I'm just going to pray and I'm going to ask for Creator to please help me and guide me and bring to me the things that I need and bring to me the healing that my heart needs, because I knew that my heart was broken
Mhm.
and I knew that I just needed to heal. And I
Right.
had nowhere to turn. I couldn't even turn to myself anymore because I didn't trust myself anymore.
Mhm.
And and then all of a sudden one day I dreamt that I was a danzante. And I thought, I would never do that. That's not for me. I love dance. I like
Mhm.
seeing it. Yes, I love hearing the tambores and the huehuets and I love seeing it, but that's not something I could do. That's for other people.
Mhm.
And I thought, why am I having this dream? I need to get out of my way. All right, let me
Mm.
go look into it. And so I did, and it was very hard for me. It continues to be challenging on a lot of levels, but it opened up the path. And so when you do ask for the medicine to come, and when you ask for the healing to come, and when you ask for the teachers to come, Creator will give them to you.
Mhm.
Even if you're not ready for them,
Mhm.
they will just appear. And I was very fortunate to, have my danza teacher, Virginia Carmelo, um, come into my life. And I thought, let me ask her if I could join her group. And she said, yeah. And I started dancing, and that was it. And then I knew that I needed something a little bit more. And I was like, let me get on the computer and see if I could find something else that I need. And I found Estela Roman. How I found her on the computer, I still don't know. But,
Mm.
I'm like, let me email her. She has a class. Let me
Mm.
see if I can go to Mexico for a few weeks. And I did, and ended up staying there 6 months
Wow.
and working with her. But it was all about getting out of my own way and realizing that I didn't have a clue. It was not me, and it continues to not be me. Being a part of the Comadres it was, Jerry's idea, and I'm forever grateful to him to put me in the similar path as you all and to be able to have the conversations and do the trabajo that we've been doing. I'm forever proud of that. So I think for people who have, who are experiencing grief and loss and chaos, I know that Maestra Susie talks a lot about, the experiences that you have as a young person if you're going through something traumatic. They serve a purpose. you know
Mm.
I know young people who are experiencing problems with their families and with their parents, and I tell them all the time, Maestra Susie says that someday this is going to serve you well. Maybe you're experiencing this so that later on,
Mhm.
you're going to be able to help other children or other kids that have gone through something similar as this. Nothing, nada pasa en vano. Doesn't happen in vain. There's a reason for it. And we just have to let Creator and Spirit speak to us and fill our hearts and guide us in the right direction, and know that we will come to the other side. I mean, I don't like the saying, everything happens for a reason. I could never be okay with my brother's death.
Mm.
Never, never.
Mhm.
But I do know that it's a part of who I am. It's the fabric of my being, and it's what guides me in many ways to appreciate life, to appreciate family, and to try to continue to heal, because I know that that is a wound that's never going to go away. Never. I think about forgiveness a lot when I think about my brother's death. And, I visited the person who killed my brother when he was still in prison. He's not in prison anymore. But before he left prison, I did go visit him. And forgiveness was something that I thought a lot about. And it wasn't for him, it was for me. It
Mm-hmm.
was so that I could be okay because I didn't want it to control me anymore. I just didn't. I wanted it to liberate me. And
Mm-hmm.
that was very hard. It felt a little disloyal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Loyalty is very important to me, and loyalty would have been very important to my brother. But I also know that my brother loved me, and he wouldn't want me to carry that hate and let it
Yeah.
control me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it wasn't for him. It was for me and my family.
Wow.
Powerful, powerful. I'm sure. I know I'm so proud of you. I know your parents are, and just as you're speaking here, I'm getting chills, and it just, to me, it solidifies your brother is very, very proud of you and your ability to do that. I know for a lot of us, we can't even conceive the idea of where to begin to do that, but you know, just God's grace upon you, and what a liberation to be able to do that, so that you can continue to do your work and be that example and be that hope for others, that in time it's not going to be this way forever. We'll be able to keep moving on with our lives, but just what do you want to do with that? Do you want to, I don't sense any sense of victimhood in you. It
Mhm.
seems like you've done your work, you continue to do your healing work, and you're transforming those wounds into powerful medicine, and hopefully for a lot of the people that are listening today to what you had to share. Thank you, Hermana. Thank you. So proud of you. Admire you so much.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing because I think we definitely have had conversations, right, where we can't let go, right? We can't get into that forgiveness, that mindset, right? And for a lot of reasons. And to hear that actually coming face to face,
Hmm.
with someone that, really impacted your family, that's amazing because just like you said, it's liberating not for the other person, but for us,
Hmm.
right? And that's why we seek to do those things. That's why, we're here on a podcast for healing generations,
Mm-hmm.
and your healing of yourself will allow for that next generation not to carry this,
Hmm.
but to be free and liberated in that sense, of not having that, that negative legacy, right, to the
Mm-hmm.
past. And so, yeah, that's thank you for sharing that, and I'm sure, there's listeners out there, and you might be in that situation. You might be in that situation where you're wondering, oh man, should I forgive this person, or how can I forgive this person?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here to tell you that it is possible.
Hmm.
And I think, also what Pati said, when we can embrace the prayer, when we can let go and put it in the Creator's hands, then those things that we think are impossible become possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, what a beautiful message, and thank you, so much for sharing that. And I'm just curious, and so with all this and your work and how's your family? Because this is we never travel in isolation, right? We never travel in isolation. And I know me and my husband, we love your husband. He's an amazing man,
Absolutely.
Victor, and so how, as a family unit, how has that turned out? If we can ask that question.
Sure. Maestras, my family is wounded. The impact of losing my brother in the way that we did. I don't think. I'm fairly certain that the person who took my brother's life, he was, 18 at the time,
Mm,
and for a long time, I was super angry. Obviously, I was very, very angry about what had happened. But then when I went to go see him 9 years later, I felt sorry for him, you know. I felt sorry for him in the way that he had grown up, and he shared some things with me, and I used to think, God, that could have been my brother. Flip it just a little bit, you
Mm-hmm.
know. You got a Chicano from a working class community with divorced parents, using substances, with growing up in a racist society where you don't know what your next step is going to be. Like it could have been easily reversed. I always thought that could have been my brother, that could have been my cousin. And what does that mean? What does that mean? I can't villainize him. I can't just turn him into a monster because he doesn't look much different than I do and the people around me and my family. But I don't think that he could ever truly understand what what a devastating impact his decision had on my family, probably for generations, that are just really difficult. They're really difficult to deal with. My family is good. Thank goodness, my family is good. We're tight. We're together. But we struggle. We struggle. My brother struggles, and I don't know that he's exactly made the connection to some of his struggles to the loss of my brother, but he
Mm-hmm.
was 12. And so his ability to reconcile what happened in the loss, not just of his brother, but of his mom, because he lost his mom too. My mom was not able to parent him for a couple of years. Um, all of that loss and all of that grief impacted him. And so we're still working on helping him reconcile that and work through some of those things. But the impact is, it's I can't even explain it. It's so deep, and it I do pray for my family all the time, and I try to share the medicine with them as much as I can. And we've had some beautiful, beautiful opportunities to sit in círculo and share with each other some of the pain that we experience and that we hold. But it's challenging. It's challenging. I think that incident changed the trajectory of my family's life forever, and not in a good way. So we're working through it. We're healing through it, and trying to pick up the pieces. And it's been a very long time. So I think it's one of those impacts that it never goes away. It's there forever. But to go back a little bit, I know that my husband is a big part of my healing journey. He's my little guardian angel, and
Mm-hmm.
he's my medicine. And he reminds me to stay on track and to stay on the healing path and to see the light and to not get caught up in the dark and even my job. It could be sometimes heavy in terms of dealing with all of the grief and the pressures of everything I have to do. And he pulls me over to the light again and makes sure that I'm okay. Yeah.
Oh no, and that's a good, and I think it's important for us to be real about these things,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes we just think like we get stuck, right? We'll get stuck, but
Mhm.
the reality is that life continues. Bad things happen to good people, but then it comes down to it, right? What are we going to do?
Mhm.
What are you going to do for yourself? How are you going to help bring healing to you so that then it can have the rippling effect to those that are around you?
Mhm.
Um, I know Esther Susie wanted to ask a question.
I never cease to be in awe of you, and how you've been able to navigate through so many things, with all that's on your plate at so many times. But I just want to share with you, in all the years that I've known you and worked with you and danced with you and comadreando with you. um, the thing that stands out the most for me is that your commitment to your healing.
Mm,
You just continue to want to heal and utilize all these spiritual tools that you learn from all your maestras, and want to heal your family, You're so generous with sharing all the medicine that comes to you with others, helping the girls, helping the comadres, and and like we always say, healing begins with ourselves. We want to heal our
Yes.
people, but we have to heal ourselves too.
Yeah.
So, and that's a never ending thing, as we all
Mm.
know. But the fact that you make it a point, like, to keep going forward with that, and to keep making sure that you're connected to these wisdom carriers and maestras and maestros, so that you can learn and pass that on. I've seen you do it to your nieces and nephews. They're so lucky to have you, but I feel even more lucky in my life. So God bless you for your strength, right? For your grace, for your
Mm.
wisdom, and just everything that you bring to all those who are blessed to be in your presence. I'm very honored, hermana. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Susie. I very much am in awe of the medicina, for sure. In awe of the medicina, and know, and the magic and everything that it, entails. And Gloria Saldua has a quote. I think it says something like, I change myself, I change the world. And I always think, I heal myself, I heal the world. I am very aware of the fact that I have no control over what other people do in their lives, and they may never listen to me and take my advice, but I can certainly do the best I can to try to heal myself and make an impact in the world, hopefully in a positive way. That's my little contribution to my journey on this path.
It's a
Yes.
lot.
And so, as we're coming towards the end here, and time goes so quick. Every time we get on these conversations, I don't know where time goes, because
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just it's just that's so much. It's just so important to just have these down to earth conversations, because they're questions and they're curiosities that we have that we don't really have space sometimes to talk to. But yeah, so as we're coming to the end, and looking at that, I let me turn it over to my Esther Susie, because
Yeah, it's something that we ask of all of our mujeres, and that we continue to ask ourselves as well. But I'm not going to let you go without asking you, what is a consejos that you would like to leave to the next generations? And I know your focus is always your nieces and nephews, because they're just all your inspiration and all your light, and all your motivation. But there's so many of us, of our younger generation, that are looking for answers, looking for those things that can help them to sustain their lives and all the challenges that they're faced with. And you have so many, but maybe you can share a few with us. Um, those consejos that really were your pillars and continue to be your pillars. I know you said prayer was one of them, and I agree. Primero Dios todo el tiempo. Um, but what are maybe a couple of the other consejos that you feel would really help this next generation to know and to live by?
I think as we've been talking, first one, I'm thinking about love.
Yes. Oh
Love
yeah.
hard completely, even if it's unreciprocated, even if it is not given back to you in the way that you would like. There is nothing better at the end of the day than knowing that you loved as hard as you could, and
mm,
that you gave all that you could. And it comes back to you, maybe not from that person. Sometimes that person is removed out of your life, but just loving hard, and without holding back unconditionally. I think that's a lesson that I think when you're young, you hold on to it a little bit, like you're going to give it out in pieces, or, de poco a poquito, or like maybe that person doesn't deserve it, and you hold it back a little bit more. But if I could go back and talk to young Pati, it would be like, don't worry about it, girlfriend. Just go full force and love as hard as you can, and it'll all be okay. You will be okay. Um, and then in thinking about, the darkest moments the darkest moments when we lost my brother Alex, and having to get through that, I think it's just important to know that everything changes. as much as you think you are in your darkest, moment of grief, and you can't continue, and that cloud just feels like it's never going to go away. The reality is that it will. Creator has a way of removing that, and brighter days come later. Situations change. Sometimes the situations are so bad that you think, I'm never going to enjoy life again. This is it. I'm stuck here in this dark place for the rest of my life. And that's not the way it is. Con el tiempo, time goes by. It's not that time heals the wound. It's that it's a different day. Sun comes out again. Springtime comes back around. Situations change, and you are able to have a different perspective on life. And sometimes, if we're lucky, some of those moments of grief provide us with really valuable lessons that then we can turn around and repurpose, and before we know it, they're serving a purpose for us and helping us help other people, or getting us through, to a different situation. So I would just remind folks that no matter what your situation is, things change. They change from good to bad too. So beware and know that that's going to happen too. That is the Olin of life, is the back and forth, and the dark and the light, and the shadow, and everything in between. And it's just trying to figure out a way of being able to enjoy it all and learn from all of it, and put your best foot forward, and help as many people as you can in your journey.
Yeah, what a beautiful time with you today, Pati, and just to really appreciate you joining us today. And really, as listeners are hearing out there, the intention of this podcast is to heal the future generations. And as we sit here today, sharing our hearts, I know without a shadow of a doubt that there has been a word out of all the words today that have resonated with you. And our hope is that it will bring more healing, even if it's a little bit more healing into your life. Because as we heal, then it offers the opportunity of our future generations to be lighter, to be freer, to have more liberty, because they're not chained to the trauma of the past. So thank you very much, Pati, for being with us. And I just want to remind our listeners out there, this is brought to you and hosted by the Comadres. And we have a newsletter that goes out every month. We have monthly affirmations that go in a beautiful way. It's called Café con Leche. And you will get a recipe how to make a delicious coffee, and an affirmation that will, bring joy to your day. And so if you're looking for more information, you can go to the NCN National Compadres Network and look for the Comadres there. We're there. And you can see the services that we are making available to the community and those at large. I don't know, it's been a beautiful time. And so thank you. I don't know, last words, Comadre, Maestra Susie, Pati, last words before we sign off.
I just want to thank you, Hermana, again for all your support, all your service, and like you said, all your love.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I want to thank the both of you for the opportunity. It's, this is healing for me too. So thank you. It's always, the medicine is always there. And I just want to thank you both for the opportunity to share and help guide this plática today. I really much appreciate it con todo corazón. Y aquí para servirles whatever you need. A sus órdenes.
So with that, we're going to sign off today. And so we want to thank you for joining us. So this is Maestra Deborah and
Maestra Susie.
And we wish you bendiciones. Thank
Bendiciones.
you.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.